So if I was building a brand new portfolio, knowing what I know, these would be the steps and rules and projects I would look at. Okay, it doesn't mean that this is the end all be all list. Like this has to be the portfolio you follow. No, and you should actually do your own homework based on all these projects I talk about, right? But these are the ones I've been following, and I think they have great potential, and I would add them to my portfolio, right? So that's the basis of this. All right, let's move on. So to quote myself, okay, these 4 quotes are very, very, very important. Very important. Number 1, don't chase the gains. Let the gains come to you, right? I know you guys could relate to this. A lot of you guys see a project pump up, especially the small caps, micro caps, mid caps, they pump up, and you're wondering if it's, if you should FOMO in, if they have something huge, coming up. Most of the time they don't. Sometimes they just pump up. Sometimes it's their turn, it's their trend, it just rallies up, right? The best thing is not to chase those gains. What I mean is don't FOMO in, fear of missing out. What you want to do is find good, promising projects and get into them early, or get into them when they're down, or get into them while they're just stagnant. And that way, right, when the gains come and rotate to you, you'll be happy for that. So that's number 1. Number 2, follow the 50-25-25 rule and dollar cost average and HODL. Never panic sell. That's very important. And lastly, be greedy when others are fearful. I stole that from Warren Buffett, but you know what? I think that's a good one. So these 4 rules, very, very important. All right, next up, what else there? Okay, let's start with the 50-25-25 rule. 50% in Bitcoin. I think this is pretty obvious, okay? Bitcoin, you cannot ignore Bitcoin. Too many people come into this space is like, Bitcoin is too high. I'm not going to concentrate on it. I'm only going to go into small caps because they're going to pump up to the moon, and that's it. And that's how you get wrecked. And that's how you really set yourself up for failure, and you're not setting yourself for success for the long haul and for life-changing wealth. That's what you want to set yourself up for. So you have to have Bitcoin in your portfolio, and I recommend 50%. And why is that? Bitcoin is king. It's definitely the king. It's getting all the recognition, everything I've been talking about, the news, right, with the banks, the institutions, the retail adoption, everything, all the buying is concentrating on Bitcoin. It has that name recognition, has the first mover's advantage, and it's the greatest store of value ever created by mankind. So those 3 things make it the king. It also carries the market. When Bitcoin roars up and pumps up, guess what happens? The whole market comes up. Bitcoin comes down, also the whole market comes down, right? Bitcoin is definitely carrying the market. No matter what, even if the Bitcoin dominance comes down slightly, still Bitcoin is carrying the market. The market did not decouple away from Bitcoin. That's very, very important to understand. Bitcoin is a safe haven, meaning that it does provide stability, meaning that if the crypto market tanks, right, Bitcoin is the one that most people put their money into. Well, besides stable coins, but most people switch back to Bitcoin because it usually has less volatility, it's less risky, it holds better, right? So it does have the stability, and that's why it's a safe haven. And let's not forget, Bitcoin still has tremendous upsides. Tremendous, tremendous, tremendous upside. Even at 50,000, 55,000, 60,000, you know what? Bitcoin has tremendous upside to $500,000 million plus. People don't want to hear it, just like people didn't want to hear Bitcoin could be at 100,000 at 3,000. Well, guess what? We're more than halfway there, right? I've been saying that. When Bitcoin tanked to 3,000, I'm like, stay strong. It will break 20,000 and it will go higher. People didn't want to hear that, but look at where we are now, right? So Bitcoin still has a tremendous upside. Second part, 25% in big caps. And big caps is anything that's over $10 billion in market cap. And these days, there's a lot. But I would definitely concentrate on these. And there's ones that I like more than others, right? But it really depends on what your taste is and which projects you believe in more. Let's start out with Ethereum. Of course, most people have heard of Ethereum. You can't ignore Ethereum. They have the biggest development base out there of any crypto. So they definitely have a ton of teams, projects that's looking to build and innovate. So Ethereum is an innovator. The ERC20 standard for NFTs came out in Ethereum, ICOs, IEOs, Now, IDOs, I mean, anything you could think of, any kind of innovation that's been happening has come out of Ethereum. So they're definitely the innovator because of their development base. Also, you have Ethereum 2.0 to look forward to, which will help them scale. And lastly, you have institutions. Institutions are buying in Ethereum. That is why there's an Ethereum ETF. That's why there's a Grayscale Trust. And you hear about companies now buying Ethereum for their reserve currency too. Binance Coin. You can't dispute how big Binance's ecosystem is. It's just enormous. With their global reach, with their different kind of platforms and what they offer, enormous. Binance Smart Chain also enormous, growing like wildfire. Because Ethereum is having some scaling issue, Binance Smart Chain is going nuts right now. It's also deflationary. They have coin bursts that helps drive the price up. And of course, they're getting into DeFi and NFTs. So they're really killing it. Next up, you have Cardano and Polkadot. And I put them together because they're very, very similar. Both the leaders, Charles and Gavin, are co-founders of Ethereum. They both are very, very smart people. And because of that, they have a very large and loyal base. And their ecosystem is growing, especially Polkadot right now. But both of these projects are not done. Polkadot still doesn't have all the parachains connected up yet, and Cardano, of course, is not done. So both are work in progress. However, because of the leadership and because of loyalty, the base, and the promise, they're doing very, very well, right? Now, next up is Chainlink, the biggest and most robust and most reliable oracle out there. I don't believe in any other oracles outside of Chainlink right now, and an oracle just helps projects grab data from other projects. It's just that simple. It doesn't even have to be blockchain projects. It could be projects outside the blockchain world. That's what Chainlink does. Basically, a whole network of grabbers, data grabbers. That's the best way to think about it. Solana, I love their new up-and-coming blockchain. I love their ecosystem. It's growing like mad. In fact, I've been talking a lot about Solana, so I'm not going to talk too much about them. But they have a very fast blockchain, a very big and growing ecosystem. And Alameda Research is investing heavily into them and all the dApps on top of them. So that is why they have been killing it. Also, VeChain. I've been supporting VeChain. This is one of the projects that's carried over from 2017. VeChain is another blockchain that has the by far the most and biggest partnerships out there. Partnerships that are not paper partnerships that are actually companies utilizing the chain. That is very different. And the biggest advantage they have is they're in with China. Some of these partners are state-run companies that's within China. So they have that in. So when China goes full-blown crypto, VeChain will benefit from that greatly. Next up, you have Theta. Theta, their platform, their decentralized streaming platform is by far the biggest out there. They have a ton of content. They have a ton of traction. And they're coming out the new mainnet pretty soon. So Theta is fantastic. And lastly, I put Ripple and Dogecoin together because despite your feelings about Ripple and XRP and Dogecoin, I think at this point it's irresponsible not to hold some, seeing how high they are up on CMC, how big they are. They have loyal base, and there are use cases for both too. So I think it's irresponsible not to hold either one. So that's pretty much it for big cap. Now let's get to mid, small, micro caps. So this list is too extensive, so I just went up to the mid caps and not even fully into mid caps. I mean, not fully into the small caps. There's a lot of micro caps I didn't mention, but that's why you guys need to pay attention to my videos. I've created a lot of videos where I'm searching for micro caps and talking about projects I like, and I mention them in Patreon too. So if you guys want some exclusive content, check out my Patreon group. But here's the ones that's mid, small for the most part. And it's not just, I have 2 pages for this. Number 1, you have Terra. Terra has a really good base in South Korea. They have an existing app, and they came out with stable coins and other apps that utilize them, like synthetic token creation, DeFi, lending, and others. So Terra definitely has good traction. PancakeSwap, they're the largest AMM, not just on Binance Smart Chain. They're the largest AMM of the entire space, even bigger than Uniswap. So I really like PancakeSwap. And if you don't know what AMM is, basically there are DEX with yield farming involved and NFTs involved as well. Cosmos, also very promising blockchain. They're basically an ecosystem of chains. And because of IBS, I think it's IBS. Hopefully I didn't get the abbreviation wrong. But that basically it's part of their Stargate program where it connects up all the chains. There's interoperability between the chains. And this opens up endless possibilities, especially with DeFi and NFT collaboration, cross-chain communication. It's enormous. It's enormous. So I think Cosmos has a lot going for it. Polygon, I just had a story about them. You know, they're one of the most widely used layer 2 for Ethereum. They have a ton of DeFi projects that moved over. I believe Compound moved over, SushiSwap moved over, and a whole lot of others moved over. And that's because they're really fast, really cheap, and they have their own DEX. They have a whole lot of things going on with Polygon. Then you have Chili's, which is an NFT play. They create tokens for football clubs, but they have their own DEX, and they're really entwined with even Binance too. So even some of these custom tokens for their clubs are traded on Binance, but you could trade on their DEX too. But I believe they have a lot of traction. They're still expanding, especially to the US, so they can get into American football and other groups. Next, you have Engine, which is a huge, gigantic NFT marketplace. They also have a universal wallet. They're tied up with a lot of other companies such as Samsung, and they're coming out their layer 2 and their blockchain. Yeah, they're good. So, same thing with Decentraland. They're just one gigantic virtual world, the leaders of that. There's a lot of virtual worlds now, virtual games that's involved with NFTs, but Decentraland was the very first, and they definitely have the network effect. All right, now, lastly, let's go to page 2. Right? Let's start with the graph. The graph is almost like Chainlink in a way. But they utilize the same source code basically to help blockchain projects come out with APIs so that other projects can fetch data from them. So this is very important for DeFi projects. But that source code is universal. I believe Facebook also utilizes the same code. But that's what Graph does. So it's very necessary in this space. Next, you have Harmony. Harmony is also a promising blockchain that uses sharding for fast transactions, very fast and quick transactions. And they're evolving. They have a few DeFi projects that are actually blowing up right now. I don't hear really much about NFTs, but I know that is coming, and it's by a great team. So I do like Harmony a lot. Same thing with Helium. They have some good leaders. The founder, Napster, was one of the co-founders. They have a lot of traction. They're mining for their network mining utilizing antennas is actually really very genius. But they're about creating a mesh network. KuCoin token, of course, is the main token for KuCoin, which a lot of you guys love, and me too. I'm addicted to KuCoin, right? And they have a ton of coins. They're open to the U.S. residents, and they're following footsteps of Binance. They're pretty much, they have the same features basically. Arweave is a decentralized storage play that I love, mostly because they're partnered up with Solana, which I really love. So any kind of storage play on Solana is utilizing Arweave. And Arweave is trying to create a permaweb where basically every single article out there, every single article, data, email can be permanently stored on Arweave. That's what they're trying to do. And then you have Flow, which is an NFT play created by Dapper Labs, creators of CryptoKitties. And they have NBA Top Shots running on top of them, one of the biggest NFT plays out there. And soon they're going to have UFC as well. And lastly, I want to mention Venus, which is kind of like the MakerDAO of Binance Smart Chain. They're a huge lending play. If you want to take out VI, you basically put down some collateral. You can borrow against your collateral. They give you a stable coin, and you could do what you want with that stable coin. That is what Venus is. But if you look at their volume, it is massive, massive. Almost the same. I think it's close to MakerDAO. So they have come up quite a bit. So that rounds out my list. So again, do your own homework on all of these projects. I think they have a lot of potential, but you may see things otherwise. So make sure you do your homework and you decide which ones is right for you. But ultimately, I think 50, 25, 25 is the way to go. And many people that follow it tells me that it works.